Hello everybody, this is Connor at BoatsDon'tSink here with another Vice Schwartz deck profile. This time we're going to be looking at Lycoris Recoil, the newest English edition release. We're going to be taking a look at the Gate Comeback deck. This is probably what you'll see most often from the set, and my personal favorite deck, though there are some pretty interesting other builds. Before we take a look at the list, as always, just a reminder, this is meant to be a starting point to be worked off of. It might not be fully optimized to play in any specific meta. You should test it yourself, make any changes that you find necessary, either for your own playstyles or for your meta. And yeah, just meant to be a starting point to work off of. Always, make changes that you prefer. Looking at our list here, it is pretty standard formula. We got a lot of level 0s, about 20 of them. Level 1s, we have our level 1 combo. It's going to be on Gate Climax. It's going to be our main form of card advantage into some couple early plays, some backups, and in level 3 we have our finisher combo and stock swap, along with a little bit of other utility. So this will be a pretty straightforward deck. About as formulaic as you can find, just with some nice utility thrown in, some nice interactions between some of the cards that make it feel really good to play. As always, you can check out the deck log page itself using the code in the bottom right. We have finally moved on to 5 character codes. I think English has managed to use up all the 4 character ones finally. So it's going to be 1XK for you. It'll also be in the description. As I said, we have 20 level 0s here, 9 level 1s, only 2 level 2s, and 11 level 3s. This deck can get a little heavy on the level 3 count. I've seen decks running even more than 11, just because the combo package itself takes up a fair number of slots. And then you've also got early plays and some other utility cards. Level 2s are light here. We aren't playing any assists or anything, just a backup, and our decompression tool. There are some back row cards you can opt to play. I don't think they provide a whole lot in comparison to how much they cost, since our finisher does have a little high of a stock threshold. So otherwise, we're pretty much, other than our finisher lineup, kind of just focusing on levels 1s and 0s to generate our card advantage and keep pushing us through the game. Pretty even color split between blue and red. 20 blue cards, 21 red cards. That's going to be our level 1 and level 3 colors, respectively. With a little bit of a yellow splash, 9 yellow cards for our stock swap. No events in this one, just 42 characters, 8 climaxes. We have 17 soul triggers, which is about average for a deck like this. 4 of them are coming off of our climaxes. The rest are just our level 2s and 3s. Yeah, we can take a look at the cards in particular here. First up, we have 4 copies of Plain Clothes Takina. This is a 00500. When this becomes reversed, if battle opponent's level 0 or lower, you can send it to your opponent's stock. If you do, put the bottom card of their stock into their waiting room. So level 0 stock bomb. Not something you'd normally see as a 4 of, but because of its second effect, it can be pretty much our primary level 0 here. Obviously, stock bomb effect is always going to be good as long as people are playing on death cards. Cards that need to hit the waiting room for their effect, which this is going to prevent. It's going to send them to stock instead. So Hololive with its Aqua, Slime with Shuna, and various other things. Second effect is when this becomes reversed in battle, we can put this into Clock to reveal the top card of our deck. If it is a Hot New Dish, which is a yellow event that we're not playing, or a Lycoris or weapon character, put it into your hand. So this is basically going to be able to just replace itself with anything whenever it gets reversed, which means we can use this offensively, swing into our opponent, stock bomb their character, and just get a new card back to hand, or play it, direct attack with it, and wait for our opponent to reverse it, and just have an extra card going into our next turn. So, good card that just replaces itself for no stock cost. And also, since it goes to Clock, right, it color fixes for yellow instantly, so despite only having 9 yellow, it's pretty much guaranteed that we'll be able to find some at some point. Especially if we go into level 1 with extra cards in a Clock, we can probably just level it and just have like a red or blue card already in our Clock. Other level 0 yellow we have is Walnut's Identity Kurumi. So this is our brainstorm for the deck. 002K. When a climax is placed on your climax area, look it up to 2 cards on the top of your opponent's deck and put them on the top of their deck in any order. This is a little bit of an interesting effect. We have had a couple other cards to let you see what's on top of your opponent's deck. Generally, I don't remember if the others allow you to actually rearrange them or not. This does let you rearrange, and that can be used a couple ways. Generally throughout the game, right? If you have a turn where you're like playing a climax and attacking, if you see a climax in your opponent's top 2, you can just move it to the top card so that your first attack just eats it off on the first damage. You can swing with like your smallest lane first, or even if you have a 0, you can like side your opponent for 1 if you know it's going to cancel anyway, just so you get to keep your character around. And then effectively that means that on your second attack, you know that there's at least 1 clean damage to help your attack stick. So it prevents your opponent from canceling on 2 and getting that like tiny bit of extra deck churn. That's not going to matter a ton, but is obviously beneficial for no extra cost. The main interaction this is going to have is with our finishers, since they are going to care what card is on top of our opponent's deck. And being able to rearrange that can lead to more powerful finishing turns. But we'll look at that in a little more detail when we get to our level 3s. And the Brainstorm effect on this, obviously, pretty standard. Just pay 1, rest it, Brainstorm 4. For each climax revealed, choose a Lycoris Recoil or weapon character in a waiting room and return it to hand. So that's going to be every character in our deck. Next level 0 we have is Cafe Lycoris Recoil in Hawaii Mizuki. This is from the trial deck. This is 0025. On play from hand, you can discard a climax and send 1 other character from your stage to your waiting room to choose a climax in your waiting room and return it to your hand. This gives us a way to climax swap if we draw the wrong climax without spending any stock, which again is going to be rather important just because our level 3 line does require a fair amount of stock. It's 8 stock for full combo, 10 if we need to also stock swap our opponent. So being able to climax swap for free is quite good there. It's also pretty funny, this effect, like the climax swap by sacking a character, had like never been printed in English until Guilty Gear, I think, was the first one that we got in English, which was December. Yet like almost every deck profile I've done, I feel like, has had this climax swap profile in it. These things are really good, and I'm glad that they're printing them now. Our other level 0 Mizuki, also from the trial deck, is 002K. On play from hand or put into waiting room from stage. Pay 1, discard 1, search your deck for up to 1 Lycoris Recoil or weapon character, reveal it, put it into hand, and shuffle. Generally, drop searchers aren't fantastic unless they have a really good second ability. But this one being on play and on death means we can get a lot of value out of searching with it. And it's pretty much our only way to search specific cards out of our deck. Which unfortunately we don't have any like clock costed pluses or anything like that that are going to be able to search our deck. So this is basically our most consistent way to get our level 1 combos out of deck. Ideally by like turn 2 playing this, searching 1, and then when it dies, searching a second one. So it is relatively important for that purpose, but we don't want to go heavier than really 2 copies on it just because it's not a plussing card and it is spending resources. Next, we have 2 copies of My Definition of Justice Majima. So this is a double rare from the set. When this card is placed on the stage from your hand, if you have another Lycoris Recoil or weapon character, this gets plus 2,000 power until end of turn. I think it's actually funny that he gains power from Lycoris Recoil trait and not just weapon. Because he himself is not Lycoris Recoil, and he's the villain. Spoiler alert. Like, he fights against the Lycoris. So you can see he's a terrorist, actually, defined by his trait. So I think it's funny he gains power off of those, but as long as you play him, you know, and already have another character, he's a 35, which can help with clearing lanes. When this card becomes reversed in battle, you can discard a card, look it up to 4 from the top of your deck, choose a Lycoris Recoil or weapon character from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and put the rest into your waiting room. So normally these cards, we see like the on death, discard, check top 4, add a level 1 or higher card. I think this is notably better in what it can grab, since it can grab level 0s, which are, you know, 20 of our 50 cards. It's really good for finding extra climax swaps, finding our brainstorm, finding drop search, just finding any kind of like utility there, in addition to what it would normally want to be grabbing. The timing is a little worse having to be reversed, because we can't like proactively use it in our main phase. That usually doesn't come up, but it is worth taking note of. And since he's on reverse, he's going to activate in the middle of the attack phase, which can also lead to a little awkward situations. A lot of times these cards, if you play them out, you can attack with them and then take sort of note of everything like deck state and stock and all after you've done all of your attacks and you're ready to move into your opponent's turn. Or after your opponent's done all their attacks before you move into your turn, before you have to make any decisions regarding them. Since this guy's in the middle of the battle phase, you might not get quite the same luxury there. You might have to do it without as much information. But I think being able to grab everything makes up for it. If you do want the standard on death profile, we actually do have that in this set. So really, you can pick whichever one you prefer. And I don't think colors are tight enough that you have to worry about this really messing up your color balance at all. Our next 0, 4 copies of Chosen Place of Belonging Takina. This is kind of our other main plussing level 0. 002k during your turn if all your characters are Lycoris Recoil or Weapon. This gets plus 2,000 power. So 4k offense is fantastic at level 0. It's going to be able to run over pretty much any oversizes that are seeing play right now. I don't think any decks are really actively running 4,000 power characters. And then when your other Lycoris Recoil or Weapon character is frontal attacked, you can pay 1, send this to Waiting Room. If you do, return that character to your hand. So this is going to be great for getting early attacks with our Brainstorm, just reusing some of our on-play effects. It can help us get a sort of third use out of our drop search if we need to, or just like a climax swap we attack with. If this lives into level 1, you can just attack with this and use it to save your level 1 combo, which is honestly probably the best use for it. But just being able to save anything and get an extra attack, it's card advantage. That's really what it boils down to. This card does also come up later in the game, not on board, but in Waiting Room. Our early play healer, its power condition is based on having the Takina in Waiting Room when you play it. So that's kind of another reason we're running 4, but as far as plussing zeros go, this is the best one to help us tri-field. Your other good option is a runner, which obviously it needs empty spots to run to, so not as great for tri-fielding, and I think this deck's level 0 game wants to be aggressive to make up for the amount of self-clock effects it has. We've already seen 4 copies of our stock bomb that clock ourselves, and we've got a couple more coming up. Next, we have 1 copy of Encouraging Takina. This is the highly gifable Sakana scene in the aquarium. 0/0/1500 on play from hand. If your opponent has 1 or less character in their center stage, you can choose a cost 0 or lower character in your opponent's center stage and put it at the bottom of their deck. Fantastic effect. If we had a way to easily search this from our deck, it would be even more powerful, but as far as getting that effect off, it's kind of just going to be, oops, I drew it turn 1 and, like, you know, happened to get value out of it. Bottom decking is nice because it does mean, just like our stock bomb, we can deny on death effects. But the main reason we're playing this is that it's a climax swap. It's a climax swap with extra utility, and it doesn't require us to sack a character, so this is sort of the more hand-friendly version. Just pay 1, discard a climax to add a climax from Waiting Room to hand. Standard. It's also blue, which I do like having a little bit of a blue count in here since it's our level 1 game color. Next we'll play 1 copy of In Charge of the Menu, Kurumi. This is maybe the least important level 0 that if there's something else you really want to play, you can cut this for it. On play from hand, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put them back on top in any order. This effect sees like print on a lot of cards. Typically it's pretty good just for information. Obviously it can help you decide whether you want to brainstorm or not, give you information on what you're triggering. In this deck it has 2 other pretty good applications. Both at level 1. We have a Chisato that can stock off the top of our deck if we reveal a level 1 or higher. And our level 1 combo is the cigarettes effect, so it's going to salvage based on the level of things it mills. So this letting us look at top 2 and sort of know what we're going to hit on that, rearrange them maybe so that our red Chisato can get extra stock for us. It gives us some slight benefits there. The other effect on it is honestly the one that you're probably going to want to use first if you play it using both effects. On play from hand, you can pay 1, discard a character, look at up to 3 from the top of your deck, choose up to 1 card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest in Waiting Room. That means that it can grab climaxes, which just has even more synergy with our level 1 combo here, letting you grab your climax and then look at your top 2. So you can determine whether you want to attack and mill 2 first with your level 1 combo, or maybe attack with something else, get a level 0 out of the way, or attack with your Chisato to get stock before you start milling with your combo. Our last level 0 is first Lycoris Fuki, 001k. When your character direct attacks, even itself, choose one character in your opponent's center stage, and that character gets minus 1,000 power until end of turn. This is a pretty interesting effect. We don't usually see minus power at like this high of a number, like minus 1k for this free. You'd have to direct attack, obviously, but like if your opponent goes first and plays a character, you're probably getting at least 1 or 2 direct attacks. You might be able to kill their character while also getting 2 direct attacks for extra soul, or at least just weaken it enough that any of your other characters can run over it pretty easily. So this is just really good for kind of making sure your opponent doesn't plus turn 1. Especially if they play like a small runner that's going to get out of the way, you can just minus it and get rid of it. It's also pretty good against a lot of like JC effects, where if you direct attack, you might be able to kill their JC before you front and let them bounce something. But main reason this is here is for its act ability. You can send it to your clock during your main phase to look at top 4 of your deck, choose a Lycoris Recoil or weapon character from among them, reveal it, put it in hand, and put the rest into your waiting room. This just gives us a little more extra free deck speed. It's not a plus since it has to put itself into clock. It's just a break-even kind of hand fix that turns it into any better card. It also guarantees that we can have blue at level 1. Our blue count is pretty reasonable. We have 20. But obviously we don't want to like clock our level 1 combo ideally, and we don't really want to level our finisher. So this is just a little extra blue. It's going to make it nice, give us deck speed, give us sort of dig for our pieces that we want all at the same time. So just good card all around to have a couple copies of. Moving into level 1, we have the Valuing People's Lives Chisato. This is red 1055. The character facing this card gets Encore 2. Kind of the downside for being 55 printed. Very rarely is that going to matter. The decks that generate a lot of stock that would want to be stock encoring anyway, we're not really contesting their board. And if our opponent wants to pay 2 to encore a character, like, that's not the end of the world for us, whatever. On attack, if you have a climax in your climax area, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is level 1 or higher, put it into your stock. So this is going to be one of the ways that we try to build up to that kind of high stock threshold that we have for our level 3 turn. And if we can get any extra stock beyond that, let's us play some early play healers, stock swap, Fumio, anything like that. This, again, has pretty good synergy with some of our other cards. The Kurumi level 0 that rearranges top 2 can tell us if there's a level 1 just already waiting for us to attack with Chisato first. Alternatively, our level 1 combo, in addition to being Cigarette's effect, does let us also rearrange top 2 before it triggers. So we'll still know the card after its trigger that Chisato can reveal off the top if she attacks next. We have one copy of the 103k reunion with her daughter Mizuki. This is a level 1 bomb, which is not fantastic. We don't really care that much about that, though, it's kind of cool that, you play it and attack with it, it's going to reverse anything. This is, again, more here for its act ability, just like the Fuki. We can discard one and put this at the bottom of our deck to choose a character in our waiting room and return it to our hand. So this is very similar to just the helmet effect that you're going to see in decks like Hololive, that you're going to see in like Avatar, where you can just, for the cost of 2 hand, basically get any card you want, any character you want out of your waiting room. In this deck, I think it's also really strong just because while our finisher does need a decently high stock threshold, it actually has a very low hand threshold. We only need like 4 hand or 5 hand to actually do the full combo, and our main level 3 salvages on play as well to help with this, any selectivity we need. So we're able to discard extra cards like this to get that first copy of our level 3 or get any extra cards that we're missing. Maybe get stock swap if we need to do that on our finisher turn. Our level 1 combo is 1045, partners Chisato and Takina. When this card's placed on stage from hand, if you have another Lycoris Recoil or weapon character, this gets 2k until end of turn. So it's going to be 65, 75 with climax. Pretty reasonable power lines, kind of standard for level 1 combos nowadays. When this card attacks, if mismatched duo, it's going to be the gate climax. is in your climax area and you have 2 or more other Lycoris or weapon characters, put the top 2 cards of your deck into your waiting room, choose a level X or lower Lycoris or weapon character in your waiting room, return it to hand, then look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put them on top in any order. X is the total level of the cards put into your waiting room by this effect, so typical cigarettes combo, mill 2, salvage their combined level or lower. This one just gets the extra added text for some reason that you can rearrange your top 2 cards, which is wild. I honestly think this is probably one of the best level 1 combos. It's probably going to sound like I say that like every deck profile I do, like, oh, this is like one of the best level 1 combos, but we really have gotten a lot of very high quality level 1 combos lately. I think this is definitely one of them. The cigarettes effect with our relatively high level 3 count is already pretty good. It means we're going to be able to grab whatever we want a lot of the time. However, rearranging top 2 is just insane. So A, it lets us pick what we trigger with the combo itself. B, it lets us set up stock on top of the deck for the red Chisato, which we have here. Or C, if we attack with this last on our turn and see a climax, we can choose not to trigger it and then just get a cancel on our first attack that we might have triggered otherwise. Or if you see a gate trigger and you want to trigger it to add a new climax to your hand, you can also do that. So it just gives you so much information and so much control over everything you're doing. This is a fantastic combo, and honestly the one that you should probably be playing in most of the Lycoris Recoil decks. Our last level 1 is a backup for 1000 power, and when you use the backup, you can discard 2 to choose an opponent character with a higher level than your opponent and put it into their waiting room. So just any change for discard 2. It's a bit hefty on hand. Like I said, we don't have that much of a hand requirement for our finisher. I still wouldn't just throw this around willy-nilly because 3 cards is a lot. But if your opponent plays an early play and sort of walks into it, you can use this, get the free anti-damage, get their character off board. Just sort of use it to swing the tempo of the game pretty hard. Our other backup that we're playing is at level 2. This is a 2/1 2500 backup. When you use the backup, you can pay 1 and put a Lycoris or weapon character from your stage into your waiting room. When you use the backup, you can pay that cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's characters, and that character gets -1 soul until end of turn. The -1 soul can be pretty decent for like just trying to keep your opponent out of specific lethal ranges. The sacking a character, it can trigger some of our effects, like our drop search, to let us thin our deck if you want. Or if you're playing the yellow double rare Mizuki, you can sack it and then discard check top 4, add 1, so you can just kind of like mill through a deck that doesn't have climaxes. But really, if we're playing the sack counter, it's going to be to dodge on reverse effects. A handful of decks right now, as their finishers, need to reverse your characters. If you sack your character, your opponent doesn't reverse it. So you get to dodge extra damage that way, in addition to -1 souling one of their characters. So you can prevent a lot of damage that you might take. Some of these decks, like Avatar, are going to try to have ways to stop you from playing counters. So there might be some issues there, but I think out of our options, this is still one of the better counters to just play. We can still use it as a 2500 backup if we need to, without any secondary effect. But overall, I think this is a pretty decent card. If you're looking at the other backups to play, we have a red memory kick backup, which is going to be good against like early plays that have encore, things like that. Finishers that are like at end of attack, you can send them to memory so they don't get their end of attack trigger. There's also the Reason to Fight Takina, which is a promo. It's a free fresh counter, which again is pretty good. I think 3 stock to free fresh is a little hard for the deck just because of the stock that it needs for its finisher. But these kinds of profiles are always good in general. I would not recommend trying to get this card right now. It's the promo for entering Bushiroad Springfest 2024. There have only been a small handful in North America so far, and I mean only a small handful really anywhere in the world. I don't know if Asia Oceania has even had one yet at the time of recording this. North America has its 3rd one this weekend, and Europe has had 1. So these are still quite expensive just because there's not many of them out there. I think lowest listing on TCG Player is currently like $90. They'll settle lower than that as the season goes on, and if you do participate in any BSFs, you'll be able to get one, but I can't recommend just dumping $1 bajillion on the card because I don't think it's that important to this deck. Any of these counters are fine, though. I just think the yellow one is kind of the most utility that you'll get out of one slot for now. Looking at our other level 2 card, we have Place to Meet Mizuki. This is a 2/145. It's a level 2 bomb, which is kind of cool, I guess. It can reverse Muron, or any other level 2s that people decide to play, like Gold Lewis. Not sure what other level 2s people are actually playing right now. That's not really why we're playing the card, but it's neat secondary attacks. I don't know if it's better than Anti-Change Bomb or not, though. Main effect we're using here is on play from hand, pay 1, discard 1. If you do, your opponent chooses a climax in their waiting room, returns all cards from their waiting room except that card to their deck, and shuffles. So this lets us effectively refresh our opponent -1 climax. This is really good if they ever hit a refresh on their own and go through a lot of cards during their turn without seeing climaxes, especially if they have if they brainstorm afterwards or level up off of refresh point and get 6 clean cards into their waiting room. If they have check top however many effects that are just milling through some of their deck. This is really good there. If they hit a lot of clean cards on that, you can just kind of shuffle all the clean cards back and leave the one of their maybe 2 climaxes in waiting room out. Decompresses them, helps your attacks stick. It's really good since we have our finishers a restander, so we are going to be sort of chunking soul into their deck that we need to stick. This can help with that by decompressing them. That's kind of it. It's kind of like a tech card for if your opponent has a lot of waiting room and you can take advantage of it. Our other card that we might be playing at level 2 is a level 3, Place to Return to Chisato. 3/8K. If you have a full board of Lycoris or weapon characters, 4 or more, this gets -1 level while in your hand. On play from hand, you can put the top card of your clock into your waiting room. And when this is placed on stage from hand, if chosen place of belonging Takina is in your waiting room, this gets plus 3,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So that's going to be the blue level 0 Takina. It becomes an 11k cross turn if you have it. If you don't, not the end of the world. If you do have it, you might be able to run over a lane and maybe hold up a little bit of defense. Ideally, you'd rather have it than not. But this is kind of just extra runner text on an early play healer that we'd play regardless. So this can just be here to heal. Can drag out the game at level 2 if you want. If you have a turn where you just need to generate 1 extra stock to hit your thresholds, you can spend 2 on the Chisato and then attack 3 times to just kind of get that stock that you need. Drag out the game a little longer so you can get your opponent into kill range. This deck doesn't have absurd kill range, not like some of the other decks we've seen lately. So healing is pretty solid. Our first card that we'll play at level 3, this is Cafe Lycoris Kurumi. This is our stock swap. It's a 3/11k because it only has 1 effect, which, oh well. On play from hand, choose one of the following and perform it. Option 1, your opponent returns all cards from their stock to their deck, shuffles, and puts the same number of cards from the top of their deck into their stock. Option 2, you may choose one of your opponent's characters and return it to their hand. So this can be a stock swap or a bouncer. Both of those are effects that we commonly slot in as tech options in decks, so having them in 1 slot is good, quite good. Except for this card only having 1 effect. Bouncing is good if your opponent has counters or something that might stop your restander. Like memory kit counters, things like that. You can keep them from blocking your restander that way. Generally, if you play this, though, it's probably for the stock swap effect. This is sometimes worse, sometimes better than the normal stock swaps that send to waiting room and then stock off the top. If your stock swap was not going to refresh your opponent anyway, say they have, a 24 card deck and 8 stock, regular stock swaps are pretty bad there. You're not actually changing your opponent's compression on average, because you're still just pulling, you're pulling 8 cards out of their 24. That's a third of their deck. You're going to hit a third of their climaxes on average, and they're still going to have the same ratio. This is actually really good in those scenarios, since you're shuffling, assuming all their stock is clean, you shuffle their 8 clean stock back in, and then you're pulling 8 out of 32. So you're going to hit a quarter of the climaxes that were in their deck before, which, if you can just remove a quarter of their climaxes for 2 stock, that's less times they're going to cancel. Obviously, sometimes you'll low roll, not hit any. Sometimes you'll high roll and hit half their climaxes, and that's really good. But on average, this will actually have a better effect than normal stock swap on big deck states. Where this is going to be worse is where your opponent's like 3 climaxes and 5 cards and has like 8 stock, because they're still going to be compressed afterwards. You can't just completely blow them out. But, you know, you can't win all of them. This is still pretty decent with the Fumio as well, the Mizuki 2-1. We would rather have it than not, even if it's not as powerful on like a blowout option like the old ones. Our main climax combo here, and one of the best artworks in this set and in this game, honestly. We are here for Swimsuit Chisato. This is our 3-2 10k on play from hand. You can choose one Lycoris Recoil or weapon character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. That one effect is why this deck has to do basically no sculpting into the end game. All you need is 2 copies, either 2 of this or 1 of this and 1 of the blue Takina, and you can get, and the climax obviously, and you can get like full combo. They can just keep salvaging themselves as you play them, and you can be good to go, which is great. Makes it super easy to set up. Means you can focus on just progressing the rest of your game without having to clog your hand with a bunch of level 3s. The climax combo is once per turn at end of attack. If the comeback is in play, you can pay, and you have 2 or more other characters. I hope you do. You can pay 3, discard 1, stand this card. Very simple combo. It's just going to let it attack again. But we have some other text that we can put on it to make it even stronger. Generally, you'll want 2 of these on your finisher turn, and your third lane is going to be Days That'll Continue on Takina, which is a blue 3-2 10k on play heal. Combos with the same climax. When Days Spent Together is placed on your climax area, if this is in your center stage, you can put a copy of the red 3-2 Chisato under it as a marker. If you do, all of your other characters, so not the Takina, get plus 3,000 power, which is going to make them hopefully out of counter range. They're still going to be susceptible to like rest counter and stuff, but ideally it gets them out of like memory kit counter range. They'll get 3,000 power and the following ability until end of turn. When this card attacks, put the top card of your opponent's deck into their waiting room. If that card is level 0 or lower, deal 1 damage to your opponent. So since you're putting that effect onto restanders, and it's not once per turn, each time they attack, they'll get to do it. So they can attack once, mill, maybe burn, hit the opponent, restand, attack again, mill the opponent again, maybe burn again, and then hit the opponent again. So this is going to extend your reach by quite a lot. If you play 2 Chisatos and 1 Takina, you'll get 4 instances of the mill effect, which costs you 0 stock, and you just have to put a copy of the Chisato from hand under it as a marker. In some situations, if you can't resolve multiple restanders, for whatever reason, maybe due to some counters your opponent has, or if you just don't have enough stock, I believe it is 1 stock cheaper to play double Takina with 1 Chisato. It just requires more hand setup since you're not getting as many on-play salvages. If you do that, each of the Takinas will get 1 instance of the effect from the other Takina, and the Chisato will get 2 instances, which means you'll attack, mill, hit them, restand, attack, mill, hit them. So either way, you're getting 4 to 6 instances of milling your opponent, which honestly, decks nowadays are playing so many level 0s. Half or more of like every deck is going to be level 0s and climaxes, which means 50% plus of the time you're going to get a burn 1 off of this, which is really good. However, we can make it even better. This is where the Kurumi Brainstorm's rearranged top 2 comes in play. When you play the climax, you can look at your opponent's top 2. If there are no level 0 or lowers, you can attack with the Takina first, since it doesn't have the effect, and you're just going to get probably a almost guaranteed stuck damage, because there's 2 clean on top that were level 1 or higher, and you're attacking for 3. So really good way to just guarantee some stuck damage there. If you do see a climax in your opponent's top 2, you can just put it on top and attack with Chisato first to mill the climax, which is 1 cancel gone and a burn 1. So really good synergy with the Brainstorm there. Unfortunately, it does not matter if you have multiple Brainstorms. There's no really good way to stack that. I wish there was, but still really cool synergy, really cool combo. It can have some pretty good reach because it is a restander. You're getting 5 attacks plus 4 potential burn 1s for pretty low hand cost. You just have to have the 8 stock to get there. Fun combo all around to play too. Really like the sort of them working together, playing off of each other here. Our climaxes, we have 4 of the Gate Mismatched Duo that combos with our level 1 combo, and then 4 of the Comeback. This has 2 different arts. I'd recommend playing 2 of each. One has Chisato, one has Takina. Alternatively, if you play the foils, it has 4 different arts, which are fantastic, all from the ending. But I can't fit all those on this page. I can barely fit everything as it is. So that's going to combo with our 2 level 3 combos. And that's it for all of our individual cards. Some of the pros of the deck has an aggressive plussing level 0 line with the stock bomb that replaces itself, the JC Takina that's going to let you bounce your characters back to hand after you attack with them. Really good ways to just try field early and start attacking. You have a lot of good tools to loop your level 1 climax combo. Since it is on a gate, those are going to be able to add climaxes back to hand. It salvages, so if you can just keep like 2 copies of it a turn going, they can keep salvaging each other pretty easily. We have 2 different climax swaps at level 0 to help us get the right climax. The Kurumi level 0 can find our climax. Just lots of good ways to sort of keep the combo going every turn of the game, hopefully, to just keep sort of building resources while we push damage. Also has a low hand and setup requirement on a reasonably powerful finisher. So that's one thing that's nice. A lot of these decks nowadays, you know, you're going to have like, oh, your stock swap and 3 copies of your finisher and the climax just all in your hand ready to go. That can be pretty hard to do. This deck, 2 Chisatos and a climax, you're good to go. 1 Chisato, 1 Takina and a climax, you're good to go. You might not even need that if you have like the Brainstorm or the Mizuki level 1 or something else. So really easy to set up there. Cons of the deck, you're very limited on search abilities. Outside of like check top 4s, the double drop search is actually like our only way to search the deck. We have a large amount of self-clocking in the early game between the Fuki and the Takina stock bomb, in addition to just potentially opening up direct lanes with the Takina 0-0, the JC. So we might be dealing a lot of damage to ourselves early that we're going to have to attack aggressively to keep up with, since we don't have fantastic ways of resource efficiently healing. And our finisher does require kind of high base stock threshold. It's going to take 8 stock to get the full combo, which kind of sucks a little when you look at other finishers like Aki from Chainsaw Man only needing 6 or less. And since it is a restander, you are going to be weak to more forms of interaction than most other finishers. It's end of attack, so you're not going to get messed up by getting reversed, but you can still lose to memory kit counters, rest counters. Anti-damage is really bad since it's going to stop both of your instances. Things like that you just kind of have to watch out for. The deck as a whole again, and as always, you can check the deck log code at 1xk4u. I think this deck is sweet. Lycoris Recoil was a fantastic anime. I was super excited that the set came to English. I am maybe trying to max rarity this if the cards aren't just exorbitantly expensive. Really happy to see it's a functional deck. I don't think it's top tier, but I think if you really like the show, this is very viable at like a local and shop challenge level, and probably viable at like a BSF level too. Just a solid deck. Does some really cool stuff. As always, thank you for watching. I know this week was a little low on videos. I'll have at least one more Lycoris Recoil video coming up soon, as well as some others. As usual, like, subscribe, comment. If there's any videos that you want to see, any decks you want me to look at, let me know and I'll try to do what I can. In the meantime, there should be some videos on the screen for you to watch right now. I'll see you next time.